Broadcast! I didn't even take my medicine yet. Broadcast! What the heck? What is that? I can't even scream in the morning. Jeez. What? I don't want to know. Let me in! Stupid. You stupid. Let me in! Let me in! Let me in. I better do that.
Meanwhile, this memorial at St. Anne's Square, a tribute to the 22 people killed in Monday's attack. The youngest of them just 8 years old. 116 people received treatment for injuries suffered that night. 63 of them are still in hospitals, and David, 20 of those 63 are in critical care this morning. Rick, I'm just curious, even though they have down the alert level of one notch, they must still be worried about other networks. Is there any sign that there is a terror network other than the one that they focused on that led to these 11 arrests?
Well, listen, MI5 has been incredibly busy over these past few months investigating any number of people. In fact, we're told that there were some 3,000 people under suspicion as part of 500 separate investigations. So the agency is overwhelmed. This was just one of many that they were investigating. Salman Abedi was on their radar as one of many people that they were looking at. So now they're tightening the cordon around the city of Manchester and the surrounding suburbs. They have obviously taken a lot of people into custody who may have connections to Abedi, but again, they're worried that he may have assembled more than one device, and there are other people they were already looking at. So they are definitely deeply concerned. We had it.
And finally, Rick, even though the alert status has come down a little bit, it doesn't sound like there are any fewer police and armed forces on the streets.
Seeing far more, and the people who live here are seeing far more than they're used to seeing for the very reason we discussed.
Rick Leventhal in Manchester. Rick, thank you very much. Well, U.S. cities are on alert this busy travel holiday weekend after another known wolf commits a terror attack. So the question is whether what happened over there will lead into what's happening here. We have some guests with us, national security expert Rebecca Heinrichs and Zuhdi Jasser from the American Islamic Forum for Democracy. Rebecca, first, U.S. authorities must be working very closely with UK authorities, sharing information. We know that there was this concern on the part of the UK authorities that perhaps somebody was leaking stuff that they shouldn't have about their investigation. But any signs so far that what happened over there could happen here or might happen here?
Well, of course, there's always a risk that what happened there might happen here. Thankfully, we don't have the same degree of the problems that Europe has. Europe has sort of become a cautionary tale for the United States. The open borders, the flood of migrants coming from war-torn nations, the lack of assimilation in Islamic communities where many individuals are become budding jihadists by listening to their religious leaders and their parents, and they don't see themselves first and foremost as British citizens. They see themselves first and foremost as members of this great Islamic community, the Ummah, where they on high alert. I thought the president's urging to drive out terrorists in our communities was very important that he gave in Riyadh.
Very strong. However, Zuhdi, we still have the courts questioning his travel restrictions that he wants to put in, and we should emphasize that the UK killer had just been to Libya. He'd been there a couple of times, but he just come back from Libya. Libya is one of those failed states. If you Google Libya, you'll find out exactly how failed it is. There's no semblance of a solid centralized government there. That's the reason the president wanted to keep people like the killer that we see there from coming here.
Well, David, it's really not rocket science, and yet while Muslims may be more assimilated in America, I think we're falling down the same slope, but just not as steeply as Europe. And that slope is the lack of willingness, the lack of courage to address the nonviolent precursors. Because right now, all we're focused on is that last moment when they're going to strap the vest on, when they're expressing some element of wanting to kill somebody, be violent. But there are so many obvious signs, precursors before that, that we could be focusing on. Those 3,500 that are known wolves, as you mentioned, and the few hundred in America that have gone to Syria or Libya and come back. What should we be focusing on? The list is so easy. Are they worried about Islamophobia? Check. Are they anti-Semitic? Check. Are they worried and prefer the Sharia state versus Western democracy? Do they favor or blame, Western democracies for the death of Muslims? It looks like this guy's family and his close community, his mosque, as much as the mosque condemn ISIS, we have anti-Semitic screeds, homophobic screeds. So all of these things are so obvious, and yet we're ignoring them because our politically correct sort of
And Rebecca, to Zudi's point, we don't want to be reactive as what happened in Great Britain. We want to be proactive. We want to stop the terror from happening before it happens. And one of the ways to do that, according to the president anyway, even though the courts deny that his intentions are sincere, is by preventing people from these failed states from coming and visiting us. It's clear that anybody, you don't go to Libya, a failed state, which is in many parts run by terrorists, for a vacation. You just don't.
Dr. Jennifer is exactly right. So that's one, of course, that's just one method that we can use to try to prevent something from happening, but you've got to get to the root of the ideology that Dr. Jasser is talking about here too. And so, and again, the law enforcement tools that we have are not the problem. It comes from the political class. Does the political class understand the nature of the threat? If it understands that human beings are not just motivated by, the material, by poverty, if they have an education or not, they're motivated by this higher calling, finding meaning in life. And a lot of these young budding jihadists are finding that in the religious leaders and texts and their parents, and so we have to be in tune to that.
Well, and clearly we saw way back in 9/11, Zudi, that a lot of the terrorists came from upper middle class background. It's not poverty that drives it, it's ideology. And it's also that's why the president uses now new rhetoric that we certainly didn't hear from the Obama administration. Some people say it's simplistic. Other people say it's right on. Let me just play some of the president's tape on that and get your reaction.
I won't call them monsters because they would like that term. They would think that's a great name. I will call them from now on losers because that's what they are.
Losers. It sounds so simplistic, but does he hit a point?
Oh, absolutely. These radicals divide the world into the land of Islam and the land of war. So they're in a war. We need to be at war and take the war to them. Muslims, especially in the West. We live in a laboratory where we can fight.
Na 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 na.
That's the battle.
Na 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 na. Na 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 na.
Take it to the belly of the beast in Saudi Arabia. Starting a counterterrorism center in Riyadh is sort of like starting a counter-cocaine center in Colombia. We need to do this in the West. We need to have huge centers built by Muslims, led by Muslims, to fight this ideology within our mosques about loyalty and allegiance to Western democracy.
I think you're absolutely right, but at the same time, I thought that those were pretty profound words. When he was speaking truth to power in Saudi Arabia, I know they felt very uncomfortable that he was saying that, but he had the guts to say it. Thank you very much, Zudi and Rebecca. We appreciate you coming in. Have a good weekend. Well, intelligence leaks now becoming a matter of life and death. The Trump administration vowing to find and prosecute those leaking sensitive details to the press. Are they any closer to finding the culprits?
Intelligence officials doing this for political purposes to attack the presidency, that is equally as disturbing and unlawful.
There are those who panic when the market makes a move. But if you're like us, you know that focus and the drive to do more will take you places you've only dreamt of. We are a team, and we are driven to do more.
Life happens everywhere, like it never even happened, only happens here. The cleanup and restoration is at 1-800-SERVPRO and SERVPRO.com.
Better buckle up. That inactive satellite radio of yours is ready to roll because the SiriusXM free listening event is on right now with 100 amazing channels, including our newest, the Pplz channel. And you can listen free through May 30th. 2 glorious weeks of commercial-free music plus talk, sports, comedy, news, and more. SiriusXM is on free right now. So let's put some joy in that ride.
Hi, guys. Tired of your bladder always cutting into your day? You may have overactive bladder or OAB. That's it. It's really easy.
What the? Oh,
Experience swelling of the face,
really?
lips, throat, or tongue, or difficulty breathing? Stop taking Mirbetriq and tell your doctor right away. Mirbetriq may increase blood pressure.
Crazy.
Tell your doctor
Let
right away
me
if you have trouble emptying your
my
bladder or have
is
weak
clean.
urine. Mirbetriq may affect or be affected by other medications. Failure to decrease blood pressure, common cold symptoms, urinary tract infection, constipation, diarrhea, dizziness, and headache.
Okay, time to do this. Don't let your bladder always take the lead. Ask your doctor if Mirbetriq is right for you and visit Mirbetriq.com to learn more.
Whatever it is that makes your business great, promote it with Vistaprint. Choose from banners, postcards, or business cards, each starting at less than $10 when you enter TV10 at Vistaprint.com.
This is a story about you. It starts with your DNA, your 23 pairs of chromosomes that make you unique. 23andMe is a genetic service where you can receive personalized reports about your health, traits, and ancestry. See how your 23 pairs of chromosomes help tell the story of one incredible you. Order your kit today at 23andme.com or find a retailer near you.
And live to the Italy Network, President Donald Trump will be speaking in just about an hour. Of course, we're going to cover that live. Chief White House correspondent John Roberts has been all over the world in this trip, and I must imagine, John, that the White House is pretty pleased with how they've done, right?
David, I think it's safe to say that they're very happy with how things have come off, particularly in Saudi Arabia and Israel. Gary Cohn, the HR ambassador, a short time ago, holding a press conference in which they said that the president had through these visits and with European leaders as well, really deepened the relationship that he has developed with these leaders, and hoping that that will pay off in the long run for the United States in terms of new economic deals, new military deals, new spirit of cooperation. The G7 just wrapping up now. You mentioned that the president will be making remarks behind, on the other side of Mount Etna there at the Sigonella Naval Air Station. He'll give an address to sailors and naval aviators there, which will talk not just about military issues, but also talk about his trip. It'll be kind of a wrap-up for the president. And the president making news just a short time ago, tweeting about the Paris Climate Accord, saying this, quote, "I will make my final decision on the Paris Accord next week." The president has been mulling over whether or not to pull the United States out of the climate agreement, according to Gary Cohn, his chief economic advisor. He's been having a lot of conversations with European leaders and clearly also with Shinzo Abe of Japan, getting their take on the Paris Climate Accord, why they think the United States should stay in it. And according to Cohn, the president's thinking on all of this has evolved over the last few days. Listen to what Cohn tells us.
I think his views are evolving, and he came here to learn, and he came here to get smarter, he came here to hear people's world leaders' views, some of which have been involved with the Paris Agreement for many, many years.
Now, as the president wings his way back to the United States later on today, he'll be flying headlong into a new controversy swirling around Russia after the Washington Post reported that Russia's ambassador to the United States, Sergei Kislyak, was picked up at an intelligence intercept back in December, saying that he had had conversations with Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law, about creating a secure line of communication between the Trump transition and Russia. I've been talking to sources close to Jared Kushner who say, well, if there was such a conversation, it was likely to establish a secure line of communication to Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, who was also in that meeting, so that he would be able to talk back channel with Russian generals and get up to speed on Syria before the Trump administration took over. Reuters also had the story in which it says that Jared Kushner had 3 previously undisclosed conversations with Sergei Kislyak. 2 of those were phone calls, 1 in April and 1 in November. I got a statement from Jamie Gorelick, who is Jared Kushner's personal attorney, telling Fox News, quote, Mr. Kushner participated in thousands of calls in this time period. He has no recollection of the calls described. We have asked Reuters, the source of it, for the dates of such alleged calls so that we may look at it and respond, but we have not received such information. Back on the Russia and the secure back channel communications, it's also possible, David, that some of that, at least the way it was characterized, was disinformation on the part of Sergei Kislyak, according to intelligence officials, that he knew he was on a line that was being monitored and was maybe just trying to muddy the waters a little bit. We hope to get some more detail on this in the days ahead, David. But for now, that's what we have from the White House.
Extraordinary stuff. John Roberts, thank you very much.
I think that if intelligence is leaked, that needs to be investigated and prosecuted. If we have intelligence officials doing this for political purposes to attack the presidency, that is equally as disturbing and unlawful.
It is wrong, it is arrogant, it is disrespectful to the people of Greater Manchester, but mainly to the families of who've lost loved ones and to those injured. And that's why I'm saying today, for the top of the American government, they should condemn it and they should tell it to stop right away. Oh, there are leaks over there are leaks over here, there are leaks everywhere. How do we find the leakers? How do we get to the bottom of this? For analysis now, we have Fred Fleiss, who's a former CIA analyst, and Lisa Giovinazzo, who's an attorney, to talk about the legal ramifications of all this. But Fred, first to you, who would have access to? We learned this week that the NSA was not as tight as with their information, their intel, as we had thought. That in fact the FBI director gave us assurances that this NSA intel was not getting out. Well, we found out it was. So it seems a lot of people had access to secure information.
I think that's right. We're seeing an unprecedented number of leaks. In mid-2004, the Wall Street Journal ran an editorial called the CIA Insurgency because all the leaks to stop President Bush from being reelected. But this is leaks at a much greater level. And I think to address that, there has to be a significant house cleaning of federal agencies. And the president has to name throughout the government confirmable and non-confirmable positions out of the hands of people put in place by the Obama administration. I think that would go a long way to address
well, and Lisa, there has to be a price to pay. I mean, this is illegal stuff, leaking classified information. I'm sorry, but it's no joke. And some people feel so passionately about getting this stuff out that they are risking severe jail time. Either that or they're not afraid.
It's exactly right. You can face up to 10 to 20 years. This is all covered, by the way. Obviously, classified information cannot be leaked. But for certain individuals, any information, if you're an officer, a government employee, a contractor, all of that could be subject to prosecution information.
The Wall Street Journal information about the Kushner leak, if it's true, it may just be misinformation passed on by the Russians, but they cite just one source. The Washington Post cites several sources for the same story. If there are several sources, I'm just wondering if a conspiracy charge might be in the mix as well, maybe some kind of RICO conspiracy.
Well, there could be, and you're talking about whether or not reporters are involved in sourcing the information. And remember, media in general hasn't been prosecuted on a very vast basis for receiving and publishing information.
Well, nor do I think they should be, but on the other hand, the people leaking definitely should be.
Well, the people leaking should be, and they are subject to stiff penalty and jail time. But if we do find that the media becomes part and parcel, they're aware of the leak. Like when Trump's IRS records were leaked to the New York Times.
Right.
He put out a tweet saying, please publish this information. Was that then garnered? Did somebody in the IRS and somebody in the media participate in getting that information public?
Fred, very quickly, we're running out of time, but do you think that this comes from somebody in the Trump administration, somebody in the Trump team, or do you think it comes from a careerist that has an axe to grind against Trump?
I think it's careerists. I also note that many of these leaks are attributed to current and former officials. And I think that's because the Obama administration began these leaks. And I think Obama holdovers are collaborating with former Obama officials, and they are going together to the news media to undermine his record.
Frank Flights, Lisa Giovinazzo, thank you very much both for coming in. Appreciate it. Well, tax cuts, is it just a bunch of happy talk? Why controversial comments from former Speaker John Boehner has Steve Forbes anything but happy. He's here. And after a whirlwind tour with terror in the backdrop, President Trump is coming home.
It's the Memorial Day sale at Ace.
The best time to buy a grill from our exclusive lineup of premium brands. Get the right grill delivered right to your house. Awesome. Hurry in and buy any grill for $3.99 and up. We'll assemble and deliver free. Ace is the place to help for hardware.
New bike? Yeah, because I got
Pplz. If you total your new bike, they replace it with a brand new.
so kind of like the second husband.
Kind of. It's good to be here.
America's beverage companies have come together to bring you more ways to help reduce calories from sugar, with more great tasting beverages with less sugar or no sugar at all, smaller portion sizes, clear calorie labels, and signs reminding everyone to think balanced before choosing their beverages. We know you care about reducing the sugar in your family's diet, and we're working to support your efforts. More beverage choices, smaller portions, less sugar. BalanceUS.org. I have tried so hard to forget what it felt like when someone told me I had colon cancer.
I had a follow-up CAT scan to show that it got to her liver. It was pretty nuts, and it moved pretty quickly.
We needed a second opinion. That's when our journey began with Cancer Treatment Centers of America. One of our questions was, how are we going to address my liver? So my doctor said, I think we can do both surgeries together. I love that. To find out more about our treatment options, go to cancercenter.com. Our teams of physicians and clinicians are experienced and compassionate, bringing you a level of care you won't find anywhere else. My health is good.
Cancer Treatment Centers of America, you have people that really care.
They're my family now.
These people are saints.
They're saints. Please call or visit cancercenter.com today. The evolution of cancer care is here. Cancer Treatment Centers of America. Care that never quits. Appointments available now.
Terror in Manchester. Suspicions were raised about the bomber, but why didn't anyone speak up? Judge Janine is on the case in A Power for Justice tonight.
We understand the value of hard work. We know great things don't happen. We get up earlier. We work harder. Because connecting you to what matters to us. That's who we are. Spectrum, redefining what a cable company can be.
I'm leaving the Westwood.
But why?
We've been divorced for 2 years.
I was in a coma.
My sense of appreciation.
Who was that for you? I mean,
Well, you know I can't remember that. Stop this madness. It is appreciation we want. Well, that's not something progressive. It rewards good drivers with big discounts on car insurance. I have news. I've used most of our cellular data.
oh, come on, Susan Lucci.
These budgets steal hundreds of billions of dollars from critical job-creating investments in infrastructure, education, and clean energy.
Would decimate healthcare options for rural Americans, children, seniors.
Part of the working families to get the healthcare they desperately need. Part of the families to put food on the table.
So the sky is falling, children are going to be dying because of this Trump budget. You might think that they're draconian cuts, but in fact it doesn't look that way when you actually read the thing. And we've got it right here. Steve Forbes has been along with me to look at this budget. And Steve, I go through the Trump budget. And I look at, just take two line items from this Trump budget, Medicaid and Medicare. Medicaid, it's now at $368 billion. In 10 years, the Trump budget has it up to $518 billion. That's not a cut. That's a huge increase. Medicare, so that's the young. The old, it's now $588 billion in Medicare spending. In 10 years, it's going to be over $1 trillion. That's almost double. So how do they get these figures that everything is being cut to the bone?
Well, on Medicaid too, they leave out what the states are going to be spending. That's going to go up another $50+ billion in the next 10 years at least. So what we have here is typical Washington gobbledygook to confuse us. They have the assumption the budget must grow a certain percent each year. And so if it's supposed to go up 4%, but only goes up 2%, that counts as a cut. Only in Washington would an increase count as a cut. So what they're proposing here is really kind of reforms we had 20 years ago on welfare, where they tried to turn welfare into workfare. So on food stamps, you work if you can instead of just getting it as a handout. Try to get people back on their feet again. And that's what Mulvaney wants to do.
Mick Mulvaney, who's the head of the OMB, they're the guys who put this budget together. He said it's much more compassionate to want to get people off of welfare than to keep them on. That's his point. I think he makes a good one.
And that's how you get a real strong safety net, is with a strong economy and helping people rather than hurting people.
And when you look at, I grew up in Washington, it's not a real place. I mean, during the height of the recession in 2008, 2009, Washington, all the restaurants were full. You couldn't get a room in a hotel in Washington. You would think that the economy would be booming. Outside of Washington was very different. And in the years of the Obama administration, from 2009 up until last year, median household income was flat. While the government keeps getting these raises, the individual American doesn't. Government gets money, individual Americans don't.
Yes, Washington lives off of the expense of the American people. And what happened on the Obama administration is they tried to increase dependency instead of reducing it. So food stamps went from 14 million people in December of 2007 to 44 million today. And that wasn't just the recession, that was encouraging dependency because they see that as political power. And that's what they're mad about with the Trump budget. It's going back to what the Clinton budget did in the mid-1990s, dare I say it, to help people get back on their feet, help get this economy growing. And that's how you get a strong safety net. When you have a strong economy, and people can have higher income.
And say what you will about Bill Clinton, but he knew how to make deals. And he made deals with a Republican Congress. Newt Gingrich was in charge of the Congress back then. They made deals not only to get spending down, but also to really reform welfare, to require able-bodied people to work for the money that they were getting, rather than just sit at home and take it in.
And these anti-poverty programs, since then, have mushroomed. We have 90 different anti-poverty programs, 22 housing assistance programs, 17 food assistance programs, and are they really helping that much? No. You take Medicaid, for example, combined state and federal spending, it's now $7,000 per person. I guarantee if we gave that $7,000 to each person in that household, say a family of 4, $28,000, they could, in the medical savings account, shop for good insurance and have money left over.
Meanwhile, as you say, growth is the answer to the problem, and tax cuts really stimulate growth. We've seen it happen all the time, whether it's a Democrat or here. So Clinton or JFK or, of course, Ronald Reagan. But John Boehner says it's just happy talk. Lowering taxes, to which you say what?
You stay in Washington too long. I'm glad he's finally out of it, but the vapor's still, and I'm afraid of that, the poor guy. But Reagan showed, and other good presidents have shown, that if you push for something, push for a major reform, you will get it and change the landscape. I'm old enough to remember how terrible decade. America was in a permanent decline. Can't get the economy moved. It's going to be a very slow recovery. Reagan comes in, stops the inflation, cuts taxes. America has a 20-year boom. We can do it again, but you got to push it, or else Washington won't do it.
I mentioned Boehner, but of course Democrats also say the same thing. They're saying there's a lot of creative accounting going on. Senator Ron Wyden said that, other Democrats. But meanwhile, these are the guys who claimed that Obamacare was going to make premiums come down, and they claimed that they wasn't going to add a dime to the deficit. We saw the deficit double to $20 trillion.
Yes, and families are going to save $2,500. I hope no family spent that money in anticipation of what Obama was going to give them. And you saw the same thing. Keep your doctor, keep your insurance, typical Washington promise. One thing to keep in mind, I hate to use numbers on Saturday morning, but Trump's budget goes from a little over $4 trillion to $5.7 trillion, 1.67 trillion increase in 10 years. That's a cut.
Only inside the Beltway. It's not real world inside the Beltway. Steve Forbes, great to see you.
Good to see you, David.
Thank you. And coming up, forget Russia's spying on us. Has the Obama administration been doing it illegally for years? Former CIA Director Pplz on the new revelations that are unfolding. And did you catch these world leaders snickering the other day when Trump was talking? Why someone here says it will be President Trump who actually gets the last laugh.
I can't wait for her to have that college experience that I had. The classes, the friends, the independence. And since we planned for it, that student debt is the one experience I'm glad she'll miss. When you have the right financial advisor, life can be brilliant. Amerivise.
I had like memory foams, I had other pillows, and I'd always wake up with neck pain. After sleeping on my pillow, I didn't wake up with the headaches. I was more aligned.
I didn't realize the connection between the pillow and sleep. When I switched to my pillow, I got a bit of my sleep, and I love it.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of My Pillow. My patented pill adjusts to your exact individual support all night long to take the pressure off your shoulders and keep your neck aligned so you get the best night's sleep of your life.
My Pillow is machine washable and dryable and comes with a 60-day money-back guarantee and an amazing 10-year warranty. Plus, every My Pillow is made in the USA.
I personally guarantee that My Pillow will be the most comfortable pillow you'll ever own. Take advantage of my famous offer and get 2 My Pillow premiums for one low price. Pillow.com. Be sure to use the promo code and I'll give you free shipping.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world is My Pillow.
Can Bosley regrow your hair?
This is my own growing hair that I can comb, cut, style, do whatever I want with it.
The results I have achieved hair. I can do with it whatever I want. This is mine. Bosley gave me my hair. I cut this hair. I wash this hair. I mess this hair up if I want to mess this hair up.
I can't explain to you the way that it made me feel to be able to wear my hair down, go out on dates, and have confidence again.
Can Bosley regrow your hair?
This is my hair. This is my hair.
Call or go online for your free, no obligation self-evaluation kit. Plus, call in the next 6 minutes, and we'll even send you this $250 gift certificate. The information is free, so choose to grow back your own real hair. Choose Bosley. Call now.
Starting a refill, the award-winning coating that's easier to paint. Debbie says this product is nothing short of amazing. Paul B told us took away years of sun fading. And Sharon wrote easy to use and great results. Recolor works on vinyl, fencing, and shutters, grills and hardware, album pictures, and so much more. Now it's testimonial is proof that nothing restores and protects fading surfaces better. Available at D-Line retailers.
News alert. It is true that the alert status over in Britain has come down a bit, but hundreds of people were just evacuated from London's Old Vic Theatre. Police are on the scene. Both the audience and the cast have been told to leave. Police were seen cordoning off the area. No other details at the moment. Again, Britain is on heightened alert after the Manchester bombing has come down a tick, but the nerves are still raw. Meanwhile, there's this.
If all NATO members had spent just 2% of their GDP on defense last year, we would have had another $119 billion for our collective defense. Of additional reserves.
Smirking and snickering. Did you get that as President Trump scolded the Europeans for not paying their fair share, what they said they were going to do? But maybe President Trump is getting the last laugh because he just tweeted the following, quote, many NATO countries have agreed to step up payments considerably, as they should. Money is beginning to pour in. NATO will be much stronger. Now, Gardner joins us as well as Christy Setzer and Lee Carter. And Lee, let me start with you. I don't think there's ever been a better example of European snobbiness from our perspective and sort of ungratefulness for everything that we have done. Let's face it, NATO, I know they came to our aid after 9/11, and I'm grateful to them for that, but they're really, we are there more for them than they are for us.
And there's no question. But, I mean, first of all, what were they laughing at? We don't even necessarily know. Is there something in their earpieces? Did somebody make a joke? So we don't necessarily know what they were laughing at. If they were laughing at the president or eye-rolling at the president because he was calling them out, it's completely inappropriate. It's disrespectful. It's totally a snub saying that, you know, we're not respecting the United States because Donald Trump is in fact the president of the United States. And we have, as you say, done so much for NATO, and they've already agreed to be paying for their fair share. So I think this is absolute, if it is in fact that they were laughing at him, I think it's absolute disgrace.
Well, at 9/11, there was the setting. The setting in which this took place is the new NATO building. It's hard to get an exact cost of the thing, but it probably cost around $1.5 billion to create a bureaucracy, essentially. I don't know how much effort is going to go into defending the future of Europe or the free world by what they've constructed there in Brussels.
Well, certainly look forward to bureaucracy in Brussels, that's for sure. And I have to agree that the smirking from some European leaders, especially the French President, the Belgian Prime Minister, the leader of Luxembourg as well, is absolutely appalling. And I think Emmanuel Macron, the new French president, is behaving like a little schoolboy at the moment, frankly, extremely rude, while the French economy is sinking like the Titanic. And I think that there was a lot of disrespect on display there. It's important for European leaders to remember that their freedom and security has depended upon the US security umbrella for over 70 years. And they do owe a next debt of gratitude, of course, to the United States for their own security. It's time for all European countries to step up the plate, invest more in their own defenses, and ensure that the NATO alliance is strengthened for the next 70 years.
Christy, I know you're a Democrat and you're not a big fan of Donald Trump, but on the other hand, when you see a U.S. president go to Europe and be snubbed by European leaders, doesn't that rile even you?
Yeah, it's embarrassing, but you have to put it in context as to why this is happening. Look, these very same leaders had a great deal of respect for Barack Obama. If they don't have respect, it is specifically for Donald Trump. And you need to look at why that is. He went over there like the ugly American. There was video of him literally pushing and shoving the president of Montenegro out of the way, of putting the new president of France, Macron, into this weird, bizarre, I'm a tough guy, death grip handshake. And then also lecturing them on something that I think he doesn't really know very much about. You read that tweet about how he poured in. That's not how NATO works.
He hasn't gotten much wrong. It's true that most of the European countries that he put his finger on and saying you're not paying their fair share are not. They're supposed to pay, as parts of NATO, 2% of their budget on defenses. And I'll throw this to Lee, but frankly, I think when most Americans see the Europeans snickering at Donald Trump saying something that's true, he does get the last laugh.
But can I just say one more quick thing? Look, it's a defensible argument. It is a defensible, argument to make. However, there is also something called diplomacy. When you're going to talk to these people who, as we've said, are our greatest allies, who have been with us after 9/11,
Lee, I just have to say that when most Americans, hold on a second, when most Americans, I think, would much rather see a president of the United States standing up for Americans overseas than getting patted on the back by his European friends overseas, don't you think?
You're absolutely right. And the reason that Donald Trump is president today was a lot because of his messaging, which was make America great again and put America first. And so I think that when he goes over there and speaks up for America, it's something that resonates. And I think that the diplomacy, how about these leaders laughing at the president of the United States who has supported them over tough times? That's not diplomacy.
I'll give you the last word. President Obama, when he went over there, it's true, they all loved him. They gave him a Nobel Peace Prize before he even did anything, for God's sakes. So they loved the guy, but at the same time, what did that get him? What did that get him in terms of deals? What did that get him in terms of support? It didn't get them to pay up what they owed as their parts of NATO.
Yes, that's right. And global leadership is not about being loved or being popular. It's about projecting, I think, aggressively US interests on the world stage. And I don't think that Barack Obama did that. In fact, I think many European leaders, while superficially saying they liked Obama, viewed him as very, very weak, actually. And I do think that the United States under President Obama did not project the kind of US leadership that we needed to see. And I think we did see a very strong projection of US leadership throughout the past 7 days on the international stage. And certainly, I think the end of the era of leading from behind, which President Obama passed.
Okay, thank you very much, Niall, Lee, and Christy. Appreciate what you were seeing on the left side of the screen is the air base from which the president is going to leave his trip to come back home. Sigonella Air Base in Italy. It's a naval, naval air station. As you can see, a lot of people are holding cameras up, pointing in the right direction. I think that's to where the president's plane has come in and where he may depart from as well. So there clearly is action taking place. The president is going to be speaking to the crowd there again. It's Memorial Day weekend, folks. It's a perfect time to speak to our troops overseas. That's exactly what the president is going to do before he boards Air Force One and comes back home. And an explosive new report suggesting that the Obama administration is not only spying on Americans, but then sharing that information. So where is it going and how do we stop it from traveling any further? Former CIA Chief Jim Wilson is here in a moment.
At Old Dominion, we ship everything you can imagine. And everything we ship has something in common. Whether it's expedited overnight or shipped around the world, it's handled by OD employees who know that delivering freight means delivering promises. OD, helping the world keep promises. Get escape with great deals on great gear. Like Oakley Homework sunglasses for under $70. Only at Bass Pro Shops.
Did you know 90% of couples disagree on mattress levels? Enter Sleep Number. She likes the bed soft. He's more hardcore. You can both adjust the bed for the best sleep of your life. Save $700 on a temperature balancing I8 bed. Go to sleepnumber.com for a store near you.
If you have moderate to severe ulcerative colitis or Crohn's, and your symptoms have left you with the same view, it may be time for a different perspective. If all the treatments haven't worked well enough, ask your doctor about Entyvio, the only biologic developed and approved just for UC and Crohn's. Entyvio works by focusing right in the GI tract to help control damaging inflammation and is clinically proven to begin helping many patients achieve both symptom relief as well as remission. Infusion and serious allergic reactions can happen during or after treatment. Entyvio may increase risk of infection, which can be serious. While not reported with Entyvio, PML, a rare serious brain infection caused by a virus, may be possible. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, experience frequent infections, or have flu-like symptoms or sores. Liver problems can occur with Entyvio.
Okay. What? I'm gonna go get a Bosco.
Relief and remission in reach.
Termites. Feasting on homes 24/7. We're on the move, Hunter.
We're good. Termites never stop trying to get in. At Terminix, we never stop working to keep them out because they can cost thousands of dollars in damage. Call Terminix now to schedule a free termite inspection. As America's leading termite control provider, we'll do whatever it takes to stop them in their tracks. 100% satisfaction guaranteed. To schedule a free termite inspection, call 1-800-333-2670 and protect your home. And if they ever do come back, so will we. To schedule a free termite inspection, call 1-800-333-2670 or visit Terminix.com. Terminix, defenders of home.
And we have live shots coming out of Sicily. That is Marine One. We just saw another chopper that looked like Marine One, but a lot of staff got out and support personnel This, of course, we're still in Sicily. Sigonella Air Base is a naval air station a little distance away from where the president was meeting with the members of NATO, but the president is going to use that air station to give a speech on this Memorial Day weekend to troops that are assembled there at the air station. Very important speech. We believe it'll be summarizing the importance of the trip, as well as, of course, saluting those members of the armed forces on this Memorial Day. We are pleased to have with us in the studio. We're going to keep those pictures up of the president's chopper landing, Marine One, at the air base. But we have here Jim Woolsey, who's a former CIA director who knows Sigonella Air Base, right?
There's a bunch of price, that's all.
And I guess they all kind of blend together.
In a way they did.
What do you think, though, of as we're kind of waiting to hear the president summarize his trip and the importance of the trip, particularly from a security standpoint, obviously happening at a time when we had this awful terror strike in England, when we are in a heightened alert status here in the United States? How well do you think he did in girding the Europeans and our Arab allies in this fight against terror?
I think he did a very good job, contributing with the speech in Riyadh.
And Saudi Arabia itself.
Yeah, I think it was a good tour for him. And I would have loved to have seen agree to move the capital, that the Israelis can move the capital to Jerusalem. But other than that, I thought on policy terms and in rhetoric and in rallying people together, the tone of it was strong, but businesslike.
There were moments when he spoke to those Arab leaders in Saudi Arabia. I was reminded, in fact, we have Peter Robinson on a little later. He wrote those great "Tear Down This Wall" speech that Ronald Reagan delivered many years ago. But I thought that his "drive them out" reference, to drive out the terrorists in your midst, was extremely powerful.
Yeah, he did a good job, and his speechwriter did a good job with him. Together they produced, I think, a fine speech.
And in fairness, a lot of people say, well, he didn't write it, it was a speechwriter. Presidents generally don't write. President Reagan did not write "Tear Down This Wall." It was Peter Robinson, who we're going to have on. But the president chose to make that speech. And in fact, I am told, maybe you have insight into this, that members of the CIA and other intel personnel suggested that Ronald Reagan not say that speech because it was too hard against a nation, and an enemy nation, but one that we had to negotiate with.
People in the state and in the CIA often leading up to some kind of public statement will say, well, don't interfere with my relationships with my colleague, fill in the blank, over here. And so even though they're the enemy, you develop a relationship. Or a frenemy, or a frenemy, or the whole world of statecraft gets kind of complicated. And there are a lot of people who are going to be in the government, and it's not that they love the way, for example, the Saudis treat women. I think it's terrible. But they may think that we're better off working with the Saudis than trying to make up with the Iranians, the way the Obama administration did. And so you get these on one hand, this other hand, that.
Okay, let's talk about our traditional allies, not our traditional adversaries. And the Europeans, we just spoke about this snickering by Europeans when the president was talking about them not meeting their obligations for their military spending as parts of members of NATO. How do you think this president's relationship with our European neighbors, which was an important segment of this trip, was working out?
I'm not sure they've moved yet into liking him, but I think they respect him more after this tour and the speech, and also it's invasion wasn't militarily effective, but the cruise missiles against the sites in Syria and the large bomb that they dropped, and they did it not after months of deliberation. They did it within a few days, and that was a kind of a Reagan-esque thing to do.
Now, in the midst of all this, and right as he's about to go home, and I don't think the timing was accidental either, on the Friday before a long holiday weekend, just as the president's coming back from a successful trip abroad, you have more leaks. This time focused on Jared Kushner, but it could have been any one of a number of things. Where are these leaks coming from?
It's hard to say, and they're probably not all from the same place, but I'm as appalled
words to anybody about this, because some of these can really undermine intelligence collection and leave us open to having enemies learn things about us that we sure as the devil don't want to know. And that's and the way we process information, the way what we think is important and the rest. I think it's.
By the way, there's talk about a deep state, that is people in the intel community, careers who are very unhappy with Donald Trump, who are in fact moving our policies in a direction not one which the voters wanted to go in when they chose Trump. What do you think of that?
I think it's a clever and deep sounding terminology, but I don't think it describes anything that's happening. I think people that know one another and have worked together in the past may get together and say, what are we going to do? We all disagree with this, but that doesn't mean there's some kind of destruction.
By the way, we're very fortunate not only to have the CIA represented here in the form of Jim Woolsey, but also the military in the form of a retired four-star U.S. Army General Jack Keane, who's joining us. And General is we're about to see, I believe, the president step out of Marine One there, coming into the air station. I just want to get your feel of how you think the troops are seeing our new president, their new commander-in-chief. Is there a difference in the tone? Is there a difference in the attitude of the military from the troops on the ground to the folks in the Pentagon about this new commander-in-chief?
You know, our troops always have great respect for their commander-in-chief, regardless of what party they come from. They always pay them tremendous respect. They're enthusiastic when a president comes, their commander-in-chief, to visit them. Everybody wants a picture with him. They kind of stay out of the politics of all of this. I mean, we're involved in it quite a bit in Washington, but they're not. And it's not that they don't vote, they certainly do. It's not that they don't have political opinions, they do. But when it comes to their commander-in-chief, regardless of who it is, they got great respect for them. They always honor them.
You know, as we see the Marines open the door, and there is Donald Trump waving to the crowd at the Naval Air Station in Sicily. This is Sigonella, Italy, which is part of Sicily. He's there with his wife. There's Melania. I believe that's Melania Trump. Yep, that's Melania. And earlier, Chopper let some of the personnel, some of the family traveling with him out first. Let's just listen into the music and see if we can hear any comments from the president. The president is about to go up to the stage, but I do believe you have a little more time. What do you think, General Keane, of the job that the president did? We were talking to Jim Woolsey about both the Arab section of this trip, uniting them against carousels in their own midst, and then the European mission and trying to get NATO itself to focus more on terror than it has in the past.
Well, I thought it's been a very successful and meaningful trip. And what he's done in the Middle East is he just reset the whole table. And he's done something we've been arguing for here on Fox News, and that is to bring an alliance together and stand up against radical Islam and also counter the major strategic threat in the Middle East are the Iranians. And that alliance is going to stand up against the Iranians and also radical Islam. And that is significant progress. And then he told them three things. One, drive the terrorists out of your own country. Two, stop having people in your country finance them. And number three, get your leaders to undermine the ideology, because we cannot do it from the United States, that's for sure. And that is a strong message. No president has ever delivered a message like that to the Muslim world. And I'm proud of him for doing it, and I respect his courage for doing it as well.
Yeah, drive them out. It really gave me goosebumps. I think I talked to a lot of people, and it did. And Jim Woolsey, the other thing, the point that the general makes, this alliance between the Arab leaders and not only the United States, but also Israel. Who would have thought that a common enemy like Iran would have brought Israel and the Arab world close together? This may lead to progress in the Middle East peace between the Palestinians and Israelis that we've never seen before.
I think the Israelis have been ready to work with Arab states that will work with them for a while, but this has
sea change on the Arab side of things, I think, and it is quite welcome. They are shifting gears, as Jack said, fundamentally toward the administration is toward working with the Sunnis and the countries that we've worked with many times in the past and turning against Iran.
Oh, Panzer!
Absolutely essential.
Oh, Panzer!
I think it was the biggest
Oh,
administration made to agree to that nuclear deal 2 years ago. That is, I think, it's the worst agreement the United States has ever signed.
By the way, again, you can see Melania, the First Lady, and Donald Trump. Melania is actually going to introduce the President. The First Lady will introduce the President. General, I just quickly, if you can get in a comment about that, it really does look like peace may be achievable finally in Israel between the Palestinians and the Israelis because of this move toward against Iran.
Well, I think we have a long way to go to get that peace because both sides have intractable positions. But nonetheless, we've got a highly motivated president.
General, I'm sorry, but I have to stop you because the First Lady, Melania Trump's about to speak.
What a beautiful place. We had a great time here and with a lot of great stuff, and I want to thank you very much. This has been an incredible trip and a great strides have been made. My husband worked very hard on behalf of our country, and I'm very proud of him. This trip has also been incredible for me as First Lady. In Saudi Arabia, I visited children at a local school and a call center with all-female employees. In Israel, I spent time with some children at Hadash Medical Center along with Mrs. Netanyahu. In Rome, I was honored and blessed to be granted an audience with His Holiness Pope Francis, followed by a very special visit to Bambino Gesù Children's Hospital. Just hours after leaving, a young boy I spent time with found out he had received a new heart donor. Receiving that news is a moment I will never forget, and I wish him a speedy recovery. In Brussels, I met with Queen Matilda and participated in a forum on preventing the online exploitation of children, then paid a visit to the patients at Queen Pplz Children's Hospital. This trip for me has been very special, and I will never forget the women and children I met. As one of the kids at the hospital, I visit.
Okay. Why is this so hard?
For the sacrifices you make on behalf of our country.
What the? Oh.
It is because of your commitment.
So I'm saying that's
stupid. We have today. And to the families who endure time apart or constant moves to the base. Your sacrifices do not go unnoticed or unappreciated. Thank you, and God bless you.
God bless you.
And now, it is my great honor to introduce my husband, the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
I've got to get the lipstick off. Is it up? Thank you. Thank you both. That's great. And I'm trying to figure out who's in that helicopter that's coming in. It may be Prime Minister Abiy. It may be Justin from Canada. Great people. We made a lot of good friends this week. I'll tell you, a lot of good friends. They're good people. America is very blessed with a lot of great diplomats, and I have to say this as she just walks over here. But I don't think the United States could possibly have a better emissary than our magnificent and wonderful person, our First Lady, Melania. The countries of the world have a large number of disagreements, but they all agree with me on that one. That I can tell you. So everywhere we go, it's a simple story. So great job. And, you know, we've been gone for now a long time. Everywhere I go, but we have been gone for close to 9 days. This will be 9 days, and I think we hit a home run no matter where we are. We're thrilled to be here right now, and we're getting on that very big plane. We're heading back to Washington in the United States to be with you at our great naval air station is wonderful. I can think of no better way to conclude our first foreign trip than to spend the time with you right here, with the incredible men and women of the United States Navy, and with all of our brave soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines, and our great civilians who support them, right? A very proud nation salutes you. A very, very proud nation. I'll tell you what, we are very, very proud of you. Every single day you protect the safety and security of the American people and provide a symbol of hope, freedom, and justice for the world. To our friends and allies, you are the ultimate reassurance. To our enemies, you are the ultimate deterrent. You're the metal spine forged out of the fires of American strength. And you notice how much stronger we're getting? Have you feeling it? Are you feeling it? All that new equipment is coming in. You saw what we did with our military budget. Way up. Took a little heat on that one, but it's okay with me. You are the men and women who make up the most powerful military in the world. And under my administration, as you know, you've seen it, right? Under my administration, stronger and stronger every single day. I want to thank Captain Brent Trickle for leading the American presence at the hub of the Med. You know what that is, right? The hub of the Med. Captain Trickle, considering everything your team has done to prepare for this visit, and you really have done a lot, I've seen it, feel free to sound Liberty Call as soon as wheels are up, okay? That sounds, maybe I'll stay down with you and celebrate together this way. But before going any further, I also want to express on behalf of the United States our gratitude to our Italian and NATO allies here today. We have a lot of them. You're stationed at the crossroads of the Mediterranean, working side by side with Americans to confront the threats associated with the tremendous violence, suffering, and instability across North Africa and the Middle East. To every service member from Italy, from a NATO country, we want to thank you for your friendship and for partnering with us in the fight to defeat terrorism and protect civilization. Can't believe it. Terrorism is a threat, bad threat, to all of humanity, and together we will overcome this threat. We will win. But none of what we achieve would be possible without our wonderful military spouses and families. Each of you makes these great sacrifices for our country as well. Let's hear it for the military spouses, please. We will always support you, and we will never, ever forget you, that I can tell you. There's one more very special group I have to thank, and that is our 8th grade students right here in Sigonella. Where are they? Oh, here they are. I've been hearing a lot
lot about you. In January, the 8th grade class at Signal came all the way from Washington to march in my inaugural parade, right? Look at you. They're all so happy, young. You're going to have a great life, right? Great life. Thank you very much. And I have to say, are you all glad you did it? Thank you. It's an image I will remember. Your smiling faces right out in front of the White House, carrying that great, big, beautiful American flag, right? Thank you, kids. You traveled all the way from Italy to support my inauguration, so today I'm glad to be here, and I traveled a long way to support you, and it's my honor. Thank you very much. Military children also make great sacrifices for their country, and I want you all to know that America is so proud of you. As you know, I was here in Sicily to attend the very important summit meeting, the meeting of the G7. It was a tremendously productive meeting where I strengthened America bonds. We have great bonds with other countries. And with some of our closest allies, we concluded a truly historic week for our country. Our travels took us to some of the holiest sites in the 3 Abrahamic religions, and to gatherings of both America's oldest and newest friends. We traveled the world to strengthen long-standing alliances and to form a partnership among nations devoted to the task of eradicating the terrorism that plagues our planet. And we've got the people that can do it, believe me. And I am now more hopeful than ever in the possibility that nations of many faiths and from many religions and from many regions, all of them, can join together in a common cause. The barbaric attack in Manchester and the massacre of innocent young lives underscores the depth of the evil we face and the urgent need for us to join forces to absolutely and totally defeat it. I met with Prime Minister May and expressed the absolute solidarity of the American people. And just yesterday, Coptic Christians in Egypt were viciously gunned down in another vile terrorist attack, one that took the lives of beautiful Egyptian children and others. These murderous attacks grieve our souls, but they also steal, and I mean steal like in steel, our resolve. Together, civilized nations will crush the terrorists, block their funding, strip them of their territory, and drive them out of this earth. My first visit during my travels took me to Saudi Arabia, where I had the honor of participating in a historic summit with the leaders of more than 50 Muslim and Arab nations, hosted by King Salman, a wise leader who expressed his strong desire to work with the United States, not only to confront terrorism, but also the extremist ideology behind terrorism. The nations of the Middle East have endured one terrorist attack after another, and I called on them to take on the burden of fighting this evil that has killed so many innocent Muslims. During this unprecedented gathering, we opened a new center to combat extremist ideology, launched a task force to block funding for terrorism, and agreed to massive economic development deals, the likes of which there has never been, that will create hundreds of thousands of jobs in the United States, building the equipment that has just been ordered by Saudi Arabia. We also further isolated the Iranian regime over its hostile and destabilizing actions and
reaffirmed that Iran must never, in any circumstances, a nuclear weapon. I was deeply encouraged to hear from the leaders of many Muslim and Arab nations